Live just a couple minutes early because we have a very busy day today. And so I'm like, well, if I could buy myself 2 minutes, let me do that, So today what we're going to be talking about is something that came up yesterday whenever I was at Bible study. And I'm going to kind of just go through that and what it means to me and what I'm going to be doing. And then if you guys want to do it too, then go ahead and do it. So first things first, let's go ahead and pray. Dear Lord, thank you for another day. Thank you for reminding us that you support us and that you are carrying us through every single day. And thank you for not just wanting a little bit for us, Lord, but for wanting everything for us. Lord, just be with us in our minds today and just remembering your promises to us. And remembering who we are in you. And just remembering, Lord, what you have already done 1,000,000 times over in our lives, but then also in the lives of the people in the Bible, the things that we have already seen, the miracles we've already seen you do. And Lord, don't let us lie to ourselves and say, yeah, maybe then, but not now. Lord, show up in a big way. Show up in a way that only you can show up, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, friends. So this is something that I blogged about it yesterday, and I shared a blog about it yesterday. So you guys, you may have seen it, you may not have seen it. If you didn't, no big deal. What we're talking about today is what happened yesterday. So I went to my Bible study at church. I go there every Tuesday, 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning. And I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And when we were there, we were sitting around and talking about how God has shown up in our lives, right? So we're going through, yesterday we were specifically going through Psalms and Proverbs, right? So we were going through some wisdom books. And so we just got a little off topic, but a little still on topic, because it's wisdom. And so we started talking about how God has worked through our lives. And there was one woman there who, she was just explaining how her husband had a really rough time at one of his, I think it was his very last job before this one. And people were lying about him, and it was unfair. And he would come home and he would say, like, how do I even deal with this? And he wouldn't look for a new job because he had a job, and it was kind of just like he was just going to sit and take it. And she remembered just reading through, the reason that this came up is she remembered reading through, and I think it was Psalm 35, where she can, and don't quote me on that, I believe that's what it was. And she just kept reading through it and reading through it for a couple of years. And it was just remembering God's promises, and making it through and trying to get through this stuff that they were going through. Eventually, he was let go from that job. And instead of having it be a freak out session of, oh my gosh, I mean, they probably momentarily had that, if we're honest. They probably momentarily had that. But instead of sitting in that, what they felt was this thing that we talk about, which is the peace that passeth all understanding. And I think unless you've experienced the peace that passeth all understanding, unless you've experienced that before, you don't quite get it. Because when you experience it, it's everything in your mind is firing off like, I should be feeling differently about this than I feel about it. And then your heart is settled. You're okay. It's almost like there is a buffer between you and whatever is happening. It's almost like where God has promised us he will go before us, beside us, and behind us. It's almost like he does what he says. And so they had that peace, and they felt a freedom in that. And so whenever he was looking at other potential places. He was led to this one place, and he not only was offered a job, he was living in Florida. The job was going to be in Texas, and he felt guided to do it regardless of the fact that they were going to have to move after they have lived somewhere for 28 years. Not only did he get the job, but he could work remotely. He didn't even have to move. And they respect him there, and they love him there. And it's just, he gets to do what he wants to do. And that's just a microcosm of watching God is setting up this thing. He's got like a perfect setup for us over here. And sometimes there's the wait. Sometimes there's the hang on, sister, right? Sometimes there's the moments where sometimes those of us as Christians are like, what is going on right now? Right? Like, am I even really being protected? Am I really even being taken care of? Blah, blah, blah. We just do that sometimes. But then you watch the story unfold, and then you see a perfect conclusion that you never could have come up with on your own. If you had planned it, it wouldn't have happened, right? The perfect conclusion. And so how does this make sense at all when I'm talking about pushing the easy button for our kids' faith? Well, as we were talking, we were all sharing stories. There's, 6 of us at a table. We're all 35 years of age plus into our 60s, okay? And so we're all sharing stories of, that happened to me here, and this is what happened, and that happened to me also, and oh my gosh, that also happened to me. And they're all sharing stories, and I'm sitting back and I'm going like, it's easier for us that have had proof in our own lives, when we've had proof of God's redemption and of God's grace, when we have proof of that, it becomes easier for us to surrender and lean into God's will for our life, because we have proof. Because we're like, he did it before and he will do it again, right? And so for those of us that are 35 plus, we're like, well, of course you're going to trust in God. Are you kidding me? Right? Like, he has fixed so many things. And then I thought, our kids require a different level of faith. And so a stat that we learned just recently is that kids between the age of 8 and 12 years old, that is where they start to, it's not that they question their faith, it's that they want to know more, like they're looking for things to sink their teeth into. They're looking for the real. It's not about story time. It's about like, I want something that can be mine, right? As an 8 to 12-year-old, that's where they start doing that. What is mine? And so they're not old enough at that point, typically. Who knows? People have different lives, right? But they're typically not old enough at that point to have gone through the things to see God's redemption, to see God's grace, or to recognize it as such, right? And so as we were sitting there, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if? Stay with me. Wouldn't it be cool if we wrote down how God, like, it's almost like we write down a timeline of our life. Like, we write down, here's how God delivered me from this. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Look at God move, right? This wouldn't have happened if this didn't happen, and ba, 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 ba. But we have this timeline that I believe, I have head to toe goosebumps. This timeline, I believe, not only gives our kids insight and perspective into who we are, other than just mom, right? But to who we are and what we have been through also, but it shows them proof of life. it shows them, oh my gosh, this is what, so mom went through this, and this is how God delivered her from this. This God is real. This God is functioning in everyday worlds now. Like, this isn't just a God that shows up in stories in the Bible. This is a God that lives inside my mom's life daily, right? And for like our kids to be able to see that, I feel like it gives them an accessible hope. It gives them an accessible relationship to be able to have with God that may not happen any other way. And I just think it's so incredibly beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my own timeline with Nora. I am going to do a timeline, and I'm going to tell her about the things I'm embarrassed of. I'm going to tell her about the things, the mistakes that I have made. And then I'm going to show her how God delivered me from it. And then what he did. She sees mom today that's totally, good and loves God and da-da-da-da-da. She doesn't know mom was in a dark place a long time ago. She doesn't know that. But now it gives her more perspective. So instead of searching and wandering and trying to find her own truth and whatever the world is trying to tell her, I can say, listen, I did that and it did not pan out for me, miss. It was not good. And still, God left the 99. And he came and took care of mommy, right? And then we can talk about the things that happened since then. And so it's such a real way to disciple and to minister, which has to begin in our homes. And it's so real. And it's so awesome. So anyway, I love you guys. I'm going to pop out of here. Let me know in the comments if you're going to do it too. I also put the link to the blog that I wrote yesterday, which totally just flowed right out of me. I think it took less than 5 minutes to write. And then Mike's like, there was a typo. And I was like, it took less than 5 minutes to write. I'll fix the typo sometime. But also, I don't care. I'm Martha, and I don't really care if I have a typo. But let me know if you're going to do that, because it feels big. It feels like, oh, that's a big timeline. But I don't think that it is. I think if you take it one thing at a time, I think it's something that could likely get done within 30 days. And then you've got proof. You've got your own Dead Sea Scrolls, right? You've got your proof. Here's proof that God moves. Proof. Anyway, I love you guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.